So basically, like an animation can be thought of a hold position, and then an anticipation or an antic, and then the action, and then the action, then the saddle, and then the hold again. So hold 2 and hold 1. So that structure here is what we are. That structure is kind of like the main point for this assignment for this week. And anticipation and saddle, they are so important to define the action. They work like towards that, to define that. And those two are so important that if well done, you basically don't need the action. So if you imagine on a and that's it's kind of funny, because when you think about animation, you think about the action, what's happening. But it's way more important to demonstrate the action. It's that thing that you don't think about your drawing as you do your drawing. You think about what's coming before and what's coming next, right? The same idea here. You don't think about your action. You define your action by thinking about your anticipation and your saddles. And that way your action will be clear. So if you think on an action movie, for instance, if you see a guy preparing a punch, and then you cut and you see someone like basically doing that with the head, you don't see the punch, but you know what happened. And that's because the anticipation and then the reaction, they were well planned. So that's to say that if you really work out well your anticipation and saddles, you can you probably will need like some frames there. I'm not saying that just get rid of the action, but the action will be not as important anymore, because now you're putting attention to your anticipation and your saddle. So that's the structure. And we did a little bit of that here. Oh, here. With the anticipation. And now let's see how we can saddle the character. Oh yeah, like just as a last like visual metaphor for the anticipation, you can think about that as being like this slingshot effect. So you pull your cord, and then you release your pebble, and that when you're pulling the cord, you're concentrating energy, and then releasing, you demonstrating the action basically. So that's a good like visual metaphor for the anticipation. Let's do the overshoot here actually. So okay, let's say the character is coming from here, and he wants to stop here. You'll do a square. And the character wants to stop here. Yeah, there you go. So there's two ways to show how your character is releasing that energy that it built in the anticipation, and then that building the anticipation and it's using in that action. One way is to similar to the anticipation, that is like going beyond the point of where the action is going towards. The overshoot is a drawing that it goes beyond the point where the character is stopping. So if that's my stop pose, that one, I'm gonna get the same drawing and my action is coming from here, right? I'm gonna get the same drawing and move that past that position a little bit, right? So I'm stopping here, but before I stop, I go there and then I come back. And again, I can, similar to the anticipation, I can uh, ease out to ease into my last position. So 1, 2, and then 3. So see that, like, by going forward with my character, going further with my character a little bit, I demonstrate that there was so much action there that my character, so much energy there that my character couldn't stop abruptly. And the same thing with anticipations. That moment where you see your character releasing the energy is very comforting for the audience's eyes, because they notice that the energy was there, and that's because they feel that the animation is smooth as well. It feels more natural. If you try to like point your finger or like come to a stop, it's impossible to like just freeze. It's just like a robot or like a machine can do that. Every like animal or human or anything really, it has this overlap, this overshoot. And yeah, like I just said, overlap. You can consider the overshoot being the very last overlap in a character. So it's an overlap that it goes back to the position that you stopping it. It's an overlap for the whole thing, and it's for the whole thing now with this square. But like later, you can, like, let's say a character, and we're gonna see that more when you talk about the character. You can you can overshoot parts in different timings. So later in character, you can overshoot the body, but you can overshoot the arm, like say like 2 or 3 frames later. So the body stops and then the arm stops, and you get this like overset, very like natural feel to the stop by having different overshoots happening. And again, I can plan my. Let me just do something so we can see the whole action here. Uh, I wanna plan my antic here. So let's do a different kind of antic. Let's do that. And then I'm gonna go again for the tree. The deceleration, like tree drawings deceleration. And I'm gonna use again like that trick of one drawing antic before the antic. And then I'm gonna have my quick drawing here. I don't want to use a smear that time. That time. I'm just gonna have it here. And then here. and then yeah. So what I wanted to say for the overlap and for the antic is that you can definitely play with like how you anticipate. So in this case, I could have gone to an anticipation that it was just the square going back, but I decided to move the square that way and then go that way. And I can do the same with my overshoot. So if I don't want to have my overshoot just being a pose that is past the point, that's the stop point. I can have a like a funny, not a funny drawing in this case, but like just a different kind of overshoot. So I go from there to there. Yeah, see how it falls there. Let's do it. Mm. So in this case, I could probably make it fall a little faster, and then I could do a second set of a saddle. So that's my overshoot, and that's because there's still like energy going on as the shape like falls here. I can go past the like similar to that idea of like doing an antic before the antic. You can do a saddle after the saddle, and you go like decreasing the amount of energy that the character has. So here, like quick overlap, tons of energy, and then if it's falling, and then I'm going to my stop pose here. But before going to that pose, I'm gonna pass the point again, and I'm gonna do that by uh, going beyond that point, but pointing uh, down now, and that's basically a squash. But what I want you guys to understand is that it's not just a squash, but it's a squash because uh, I'm using a squash on a saddle. So it's not a squash that is it's a like building energy, but it's a squash that like understand the energy that is going on in the character. So little squash, and then I can go little up and then down. So squash and then oh. Like the way I'm copying the drawing here, like I wanted this drawing to be duplicated here, so I can kind of like tweak it from there. So I go like Command Shift F6 and then F6. So I have the drawing like copied now, and I'm gonna like tweak it from there. So there's squash, and then like here, and then here, and then it just falls. So let's see. Oh, the stop is moving. Can maybe have that quicker and that quicker and that. Yeah, maybe I don't need those. Don't choose. Go back. Yeah. So there's like two saddles happening here, and there's also like two antics. Like one, we can move that. Okay. So the antic is building energy, and the saddle is releasing energy. So that's one way to do saddles, which is like overshoot, going the character past the point a little bit, and then coming back. And if you're coming back and you feel that there's still like maybe like a time for one last bounce or one last like squash or uh, one last overshoot, you can and you should totally do it. Although usually like just an overshoot also works, especially if you were talking with characters that are more cartoony. Like cartoony timing is it's very like especially like for TV, they use that idea of antic action and saddle quite a lot. So you see like because that allows you to go from pose to pose in a very easy way, in a very uh, uh, I don't know comprehensive way. So they use it quite a lot. So uh, um, oftentimes you don't need like to do more than one overshoot or even like the two antics things. I'm just saying like how you can uh, maybe bring that extra level of like fluidity and smoothness to your animation. You can totally go like characters here and then anticipation and action and then like kind of overlap the whole body and that would work and uh, you would get a nice animation. But you can polish that even more if you want. That's what I'm saying. The other way you can stop a character, which so like in the Richard Williams book, he calls that overshoot a hard accent. It's very like effective, especially like in fast actions. You overshoot to go the character past the point a little bit.